Do you on the screen hear me? You online? Yes? Okay, fine. Then, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Community Board 2 Manhattan's Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. I am Shirley Secunda, the chair of the committee. I will introduce you to our two full board members who are here, and then the folks that are online as well. So can you start, Ben?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Ben Listman, full board member.
Okay.
Anthony Wallenborg, full board member.
And Nancy is also our host tonight. And you want to start with Janine and then Stella?
Hi, Janine Kiley, member of the committee.
Hi,
Okay.
Stella Fitzgerald, full board member and committee member.
And Dan
Dan Miller, public member.
and Joe. Oh, Joe, can you unmute yourself?
It is unmuted.
Oh, okay, then just raise your hand, Joe. Raise your hand. I signed in there. Okay. Can you sign in? Okay, whatever the case, anyhow. That is Joe Flayhaven, and he is a public member of the committee. So I'll just give you a little overview. I know a lot of you probably know already what our routine is, but just for those who don't, I will give you the overview, which is there is an agenda with 3 items tonight. Each item will be heard separately by their presenters. In each case, after the presenter presents, the committee asks questions. After that, our guests ask questions and also give comments. Then when that discussion is over, we go into our business session. That simply means that we are discussing these items and deciding what we will do with them. And that could be, we may write a resolution. Here is Rocio. This is, just introduce yourself, Rocio. That's Rocio Sands, another full board member. Good to see you. So what was I saying? Oh yeah, so after business session, we decide whether we'll do a resolution report or treat the item in a different way. Not the end. It then goes to full board, and the meeting of the full board is on Thursday, November 21st. This time we don't have a venue, but that will be on our website for you to see if you decide you would like to attend and follow through on your item. And let's see, any guidelines of behavior? Well, I always say, you know, there's a little raise your hand symbol at the bottom of your screen. So if you want to speak, raise your hand, and guests here, raise your hand or tap me or something since my back is to you. Obviously, please let whoever is speaking speak. We really don't want interruptions. Wait until the end of the presentation, and then we'll have plenty of time to talk. And I really think that's about it. So we're going to start with the first item on our agenda. And I do see that Ian Francis is here, who is the Regional Planning Manager for the New York State Department of Transportation. That's Region 11. And for those of you who don't know what Region 11 is, it is New York City. So that's a pretty big region, right, Ian? And
it is. Thank you.
And Ian will be giving us an overview of an upcoming Route 9A mobility and safety improvement study that the state DOT is doing. So the floor is yours, Ian.
Thank you for inviting me, and I really appreciate you allowing me to make this presentation. I'm going to try to share screen, so bear with me for a moment while I get it up and going. Do this first. No. Okay, can you see the big blue screen?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Thank you for the introduction. And yes, we wanted to come out, and I wanted to come out for the state DOT and share some highlights of what we're looking to do regarding the Route 9A Mobility and Safety Enhancement Study. So let's take a quick look at today's agenda, just to give you an idea of what we'll be discussing regarding this study. There's some community concerns we want to take a look at, and we'll discuss the study objectives and community involvement and concept development process. So why don't we delve in to this presentation? All right. The study is going to take place on Route 9A from West 59th Street all the way down to Battery Place, which encompasses a 5-mile long corridor with a beautiful landscaped boulevard neighboring Hudson River Park. While the study is a route of travel, it's also a destination for residents and tourists in New York City. But you guys live here, so you know that. There are a number of landmarks which not only shape the physical landscape, but also play a significant role in the local community's identity and history. Okay, I'm having a little trouble with my presentation. Okay, there we are. Now let's discuss the past and present changes of the Route 9A corridor. Over the years, it's apparent that Lower Manhattan has seen the rise of new residential buildings, parks, and public spaces. Nonetheless, Route 9A has become more congested with vehicles, bicyclists, as well as pedestrians. We've seen major developments in Hudson River Park and Battery Park City, which has provided essential green space for recreation and leisure for the residents and visitors of New York City. To the left, you'll see a photo of circa around the year 2000, which shows the northbound West Side Highway approaching the World Trade Center. And on the right, you'll see the mixed-use lane, which is adjacent to the travel lanes. Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm having a little problem with my slideshow. Okay. All right. The study area is used by many motor vehicles, bicyclists, and pedestrians, which is a vital reason why the study is taking place. The study's goal is to enhance safety and mobility for all the users. The study area spans many neighborhoods, including Hell's Kitchen, Chelsea, West Village, Lower Manhattan, and the Financial District. Importantly, the study location serves a variety of regional, arterial, and local transportation activities and needs. It's known as an intermodal access provider to 3 Hudson River ferries, passenger liner terminals, excursion ships, and a heliport that serves as and it also serves as the terminus for 5 crosstown bus lines. Okay. Now, what are some of the community concerns we've heard? Let's take a closer look at those. We understand these concerns and more are critical to the study because it allows us to address real world challenges the community is facing to ensure the study remains relevant and responsive to the needs of the community. So based on recent feedback and research, here are some of the key concerns we've identified. There's a need to reduce crashes. And there are safety concerns for pedestrians and bicyclists. There's a need for better pedestrian connectivity across Route 9A between the neighborhoods and the Hudson River Park. Now, resiliency along the roadway is also one of the concerns to protect against flood events, along with safety regarding e-bikes utilizing the shared space. Now, if you have any other concerns that may come to your mind, we're looking forward to hearing those as well. Just please note them and share them with me at the end of this presentation. As I mentioned earlier, resiliency has been brought to our attention as a major community concern, understandably, and options and solutions will be explored as the study moves forward. Additionally, we will be looking into local partnerships and subject matter experts that can provide insight and expertise through this process. So what are the study goals? Many users travel Route 9A, whether they're drivers, bicyclists, pedestrians, and as a result, the study will focus on improving mobility and safety needs addressing mobility and safety needs along the corridor. The study seeks to better understand the current and future needs of the corridor. We're also looking to evaluate transportation strategies and study and recommend transportation concepts for future analysis. And we'll be evaluating environmental, natural resources, cultural, and community needs as well. And we're looking to actively involve local stakeholders and organizations, including transportation advocacy groups and subject matter experts and the public. The goal throughout will be to document the community's needs and priorities throughout the entire study process. So how are we going to do this? Here's our concept development process. Phase one, we're going to start with phase one, which is our existing conditions and corridor vision. In this case, we'll introduce the study to the elected officials, community leaders, and the public, like we're doing now, just going out and letting you know that we're starting and we want to gain a better understanding of the project area based on what we hear from you, the data collected, previous studies, and the community's lived experience. The involvement in this phase will shape the study vision to reflect the project needs and community's priorities. Now, phase two, the concept development, that's where we share the options for the corridor based on future transportation needs with stakeholders, the public, agency partners, and the Transportation Partnering Committee. Phase three is our concept refinement. After we've heard from you and developed some concepts, we'll refine them based on feedback from phases one and two. The study team will develop and share transportation concepts with the Transportation Partnering Committee and the interested stakeholders at a sketch level with associated impacts. And finally, concept recommendations, phase four. Based on feedback, the study team will refine and finalize concept recommendations with associated impacts and high-level costs for the public's feedback. Okay, community involvement. How do we all stay involved? As we move forward, it's important to remember that the success of the Route 9A study relies heavily on community involvement throughout the study. Public involvement will be weaved in throughout the study so that the concepts are reflective of the public's needs. First and foremost, we're looking to engage with individuals and groups during every phase to create an inclusive and open process, fostering mobility and safety for all users along the corridor. Importantly, we're hoping for and expecting a high level of involvement for the study since it encompasses such a heavily populated area. For our first group, the Transportation Partnering Committee, will be a group of community leaders and technical experts who will help guide, provide input, and share a broad range of perspectives. The Transportation Partnering Committee group will play a critical role in the development of the study and will meet 4 times throughout to be advisory and help synthesize feedback. Membership will include local stakeholders, transportation advocacy groups, local community boards, and transportation subject matter experts. The second outreach touchpoint will be briefings with community stakeholders. The project team will present to targeted local organizations and interested stakeholders for individual briefings throughout the study. Briefings will be focused during phases 2 and 3. And lastly, the public will have the opportunity to take part in public information meetings to ensure that the study addresses the real needs and concerns that matter most to those who are directly impacted by the study or located in or around the study area. There will be 3 in-person meetings for the public during phases 1, 2, and 4 of the study. Importantly, to broaden the reach of the public, there will be virtual public meetings that will replicate the information provided at the in-person meetings. In-person meetings will be held in an accessible location near the corridor after work hours and will be held in a variety of formats, from presentations to open houses and even workshop formats. As for virtual public meetings, they will be hosted and recorded on Zoom with live polling and public comments. My advance button doesn't seem to want to work. Oh, there it goes. So we'll be coordinating with other agencies, and here is a list of just some of them. We'll be coordinating with New York City DOT, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, MTA, New York City Parks, New York City Planning, Battery Park City Authority, and Hudson River Park. Okay, so here's a visual timeline of how we will conduct the study. They're showing you the 4 phases. As I stated, we've started back in September of 2024, just last month, and the study is expected to last about 26 months to the winter of 2026. And these diagrams show the different touch points throughout. And how do you stay involved? As we move toward the conclusion of our presentation, I'd like to take a moment to talk about how you continue to stay engaged moving forward. We've introduced some important study information today, but this is just the beginning. We're currently working on generating a project website, which will be loaded with all new information, as well as upcoming meeting dates, news releases, and contact information. Additionally, we'll be creating a specific email address for all study-related comments, questions, and thoughts. Additionally, we encourage you to stay connected through email lists, social media, or other communication channels. This will ensure you remain informed about the latest developments and opportunities to engage with the community and with the study team. Okay, now we've reached the comment portion of our presentation, and I will open the floor to any questions and thoughts or comments you may have. We've covered a lot of material today, and I want to make sure everything is clear. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, or feedback, we'd also love to hear that. I'll do my best to address all your questions, and if there's something we need to dive deeper into, we can certainly follow up after the session. I do have
Okay,
at least one person from the state DOT on the line who will keep track of the questions as they're stated. And do you have anyone online, or is everyone in the room with you?
yeah. Well, what we usually do is we have, as I said before, the committee asks questions.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
And
Sorry.
then we have guests who will also ask questions and probably give you some comments as well. So I think I'm going to start with the folks that are actually in the community board office. So does anybody here have any questions? Just raise your hand. Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead, Ben.
for the project website and email, I know you said they're not up yet. Are we able to be notified when they are?
We will send a notice to the community board and let you know when they're up and running. We'll send a blast out. Now, there's also we're putting together a transportation partnering committee. We'll hope to have everything up by then, and that should be in mid-November. So we will send out information regarding that.
Right. Anybody else on the committee? Okay, so I have a couple of questions that really, I guess, have to do more maybe with content. And, well, the first thing is my question is, have you begun yet? Have you begun the study yet?
Well, yes, we brought the consultant on board, and we started in, I think it's September 12th, but don't hold me to that date. But it isn't. We did start in September, and we've started meeting. We're collecting data, and we're doing our outreach. We've met with elected officials earlier this week. We'll meet with CB1 next week, and we're getting out to meet the public and let them know what we're doing, and to start hearing what their concerns are, so that we can use that as
Okay.
a focus.
I'll ask questions, then I know Dan has his hand raised, and I know he's gonna have a lot of questions. So, can you explain about that partnership? That sounded really intriguing. And will that be a committee, or will that be a broader kind of construct?
It's a committee. We want to get everyone in the room together, so that's what the transportation partnering committee is looking to do. There's a
So
long
who would be on the committee?
Well, the community boards are going to be are going to be on the committee,
Uh-huh.
along with the different organizations, the bids, business improvement districts,
Okay, so in
and
other words, representatives from each of those
yes,
entities.
yes, and Battery
The
Park City
local
Authority,
ones, in other
people
words.
who are along the corridor, organizations are along the corridor. Those are the ones we're looking to be part of the committee.
Right, yeah. And do you have any notion of how often that partnership committee would be meeting?
Well, those meetings there should be about 4 of those meetings. There's one at the beginning. We'll hear what everyone has to say. Then the next phase, after we've collected all the data, we'll come back to them. We'll talk to them some more, and tell them what we heard and ask for their input so that we can help. It can help to guide us forward.
I think I'm going to call on Dan now. I have a couple of other questions, but I know that Dan is anxious
Okay.
to get his.
Well, I think that's
Janine.
the study's long overdue. And thanks so much for making it happen. You know, this committee has written, I don't know, a dozen resolutions on 9A and the Greenway and the dangers. And actually last month, we wrote a resolution on the fact there's no bus route. You can't get from Battery Park up to places like Little Island or Pier 57 via bus, or to Pier 40. So these are things that definitely need a lot of thought. And when when it comes to safety, that's another issue too, which is you have really a truck route. It was built in 1992, and it wasn't a park there when 9A was built. And now that there is, it really needs to be looked at holistically and say, okay, we have this truck fast route where people actually were speeding. We got a lot of complaints during COVID on that. And we now have the nation's busiest greenway, which is being used by fast delivery bikes that take up the entire lane. There are areas on the greenway which don't have any lights. I think it's from Northmore all the way up to Canal. So it's treacherous, and you have people moving very fast. So it's not so much a question. It's just and I'm glad you're taking 2 years to take care of it, but it's an issue that we bring up every time, it's wonderful that all the agencies are working together, because one of the hurdles that we've had is getting state DOT and city DOT and the MTA all in the same room. And I guess my question is, in this committee, everyone's going to, this is at the end of the day, it's still going to be a state DOT project, or is it going to be like the signaling is going to be done by city, and at the end of the day, who's going to be actually managing this project, or is it going to be a completely different task force?
This is a study. We are getting everyone in the room, and so that we can hear what's going on and what the concerns are. And we're going to develop. Our goal is to develop a vision as to what happens. Now, actually, this is the second meeting we've heard about the bus routes along the corridor, and we want to get MTA into the room and have them, and if they're in the room, we'll try to get an answer from them as to what their plans are and how they can address it. But we are developing a vision and looking for the community to give us their thoughts as to what the vision is, because the corridor, like you said, was built 30 odd years ago, and I don't the plan 30 years ago is not necessarily what the reality is today. So this is where we want to get back. We want to get come up with a vision so that the reality is addressed and the concerns are brought forward and looked at and hopefully addressed. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Pam? Because I'm.
No, I think that it's a great thing to get this study going, and the faster it can be completed, the better, because I think there are a lot of things on the table that you spoke about that you already know about, and how do we work this out with urban design? And I guess there's one other thing. There's, congestion pricing, right? So how do you design 9A knowing or not knowing there's congestion pricing? Because that could theoretically change the idea of, congestion pricing was going to make 9A a thoroughfare. And obviously you needed more traffic for it to hold. And what we're saying as a community is the exact opposite. It should be slower traffic, more cycling opportunities, and quieter for the park goers and for the residents that live. There was no residencies here along 9A. I live on 9A. So I've seen it grow. I've been here for over 22 years, 23 years. So I just wonder how you play into this possibility of congestion pricing, which would impact any kind of workaround or study.
We were looking at congestion pricing as we were developing the scope, and right now it's in flux. We don't know which way it's going to move forward. It is in our minds. We will see what happens with it, and hopefully there'll be some resolution in the not too distant future, and then we can adjust the study to move forward with it. But right now, there are a lot of questions, and we don't know the answers, so we just have to wait for the answers. Hopefully that answers your question.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to Janine. Janine, do you hear me?
Yes, I just have a follow-up question to yours, Shirley, is you talked about the partnership and the bids being part of the partnership. What is the equivalent entity block associations or some other thing that's representing the residents? Because I just want to make sure they're adequately represented in terms of this process.
Well, the community boards, for one, along with stakeholders groups, we were working to develop those.
Okay.
So
are you looking for recommendations from us for stakeholders and people to participate, or do you have a list that you want to share with us?
We're looking for recommendations from you.
Thank
That
you.
will help, because you know the area better than we do. You're welcome. Thank you.
Great, okay. Anybody else on the committee? Angie?
Oh, no.
Anybody? Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I have a couple more. Oh, right here.
Okay.
What?
He had his hand up.
Is somebody raising their hand?
It's okay.
Okay.
Lower.
Okay, I asked about the partnership. I heard you talk about resiliency, and I saw there was some reference to in the letter that came to the commissioner on resiliency projects. And I just wondered if you could give us some little short overview. Do you have projects in mind already that would take in resiliency?
We don't have projects in mind. Resiliency is something that we're looking at. So whatever concepts that are developed, resiliency will be.
You don't have any particular location?
We don't have specific projects or locations at this point.
Okay,
We're
right,
looking at the entire corridor.
Right. And my last one was about the boundaries of the study area, and you said from Battery to 59th, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Battery to 59th will be the.
Okay, we're gonna go into our guests right here. Would you like that?
Sure. So this is going until 2026, which is, sounds to me, relatively long term. How will the results of the study be used, and when was the last equivalent study done?
I don't think there's been a full study of Route 9A since it was built 30 odd years ago. As far as what the output of the study will develop a vision, and that will be used by the different agencies as a guide as to how to move forward. This is how we're listening to you, and the low hanging fruit is something that we would try to get implemented quickly, but we'll come up with short, medium, and long term concepts that we can move forward with.
So it'll be used just like as a reference, as a guide for plans that the state DOT or whoever currently has with the.
Yes.
Okay.
Someone just asked who is a person in the room
Yes,
asking
sir.
a question.
Yes, right. Yeah, we have Ron Ruiz here from Assemblyman Glick's office.
Hi, so my question was gonna be about the consultant that you hired. You said that some of the study has begun in September. Do you have a name for that consultant?
Yeah, the consultant that's working with the study will be HDR.
Or,
Yes.
okay, and another question that I had, sort of relates to what you were saying, that, so the study is supposed to conclude in 2026, and it's supposed to conclude with recommendations. And then after that, there will, I suppose, there be a different timeline for a different project, which is supposed to be the planning, designing and implementation of the changes that are going to be adopted. And I guess my question is DOT going to be responsible for that future plan, state DOT, or the recommendations too?
There will be recommendations for the entire corridor. The projects that are within our jurisdiction would be our responsibility, but the different agency partners that they would be responsible for the items within their jurisdiction.
All right, good. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else here for guests? No? Okay. Oh, yeah.
Can you please tell us, what is the total cost of this project, and how long will it take from the planning process to the end result? Including, you're saying you're not doing resiliency, but somebody else that has to do resiliency, the engineers, right?
Yes. Well, the cost of the study is approximately $2 million.
How much?
2 million. A little over 1.8. So we'll round it to $2 million for the study. As far as the study itself will take 26 months. The concepts will be short, medium, and long term that come out of it. If there's low hanging fruit that can be implemented immediately, we will try to do that, but we will put it into our program. The projects will be in the state program moving forward.
How much will traffic be impacted from the, when you do perform the work that is required?
Right now in the study, hopefully there will be minimal impacts. We would be working on the shoulders and taking measurements. As far as the construction, that would be part of the preliminary engineering that comes out of the projects that are developed. I can't give you an answer on that, but depending on the study, depending on the project, that will have varying impacts on traffic.
So how about our online guests?
Nobody.
Is there nobody at all? Oh, okay. Well, I have another question, which is, what's next? When will we be getting a chance to answer your questions, give you input, et cetera? Will you be getting in touch with us? You did say that you were going to work with community boards, and I wondered
Yeah.
if the process was going to be more detail maybe.
We're going to invite you to a transportation partnering committee, and that meeting will be scheduled next month. We should be sending invitations out shortly. So,
Oh, okay. And that, I guess, will be online, right?
well, we're hoping that you show up in person, but it will more than likely be a hybrid meeting in person and
Oh, probably hybrid, right? Okay. Oh, so that should be in November then.
yes, that will be in November.
And I presume you will be getting in touch with, since we're concerned about Community Board Two's participation, but just others, you would be consulting the Community Board Two office?
Yes, we will definitely send invitations out to you.
Right.
Office.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I can't think of anything else. Anybody else have questions? Okay.
All right.
So I thank you very much.
You're welcome. I thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation. Enjoy your evening.
And
Thank you.
we're really, really looking forward to participating in this study and giving our input. And I guess you know how important we think this is. So
Yes,
we appreciate
and
hearing this.
and your input is important to us, so we look forward to receiving it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too.
All right, bye now.
So we're moving on now to the next item on our agenda, which is a request to extend the protected bicycle lane from Houston Street. It goes, right now, it goes down to Houston Street, ends there. So this is to extend it from Houston Street to Canal Street. This is a protected bicycle lane on Varick Street. And do we have James? We do. We have James Morris.
We have James and Charles O'Neill, but we're missing Jared and Chris.
Okay, but James is, I think, the main presenter. Right, James?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so you ready, James?
I am indeed. Hi, folks. My name is James Morris. I live in Chelsea and I work in Soho. That means that I frequently cycle 7th Avenue and I end up taking Varick Street all the way down to Canal. And on 7th Avenue right now, there exists an excellent protected bicycle lane. And you should be able to see my screen now. This is not the actual bike lane, but this is the format of the bike lane that exists on 7th Avenue today. There is a bicycle lane butting up against the sidewalk here, and there is parking for cars to the right of us. This is excellent, but unfortunately, this lane stops at Varick Street and Houston Street. And continuing a journey on Varick Street from Houston to Canal is a pretty perilous adventure. I'm going to bring up a map here, which shows the stretch of road that I'm talking about. This is West Houston Street at the top. There's Canal Street at the bottom. And then this is Varick Street, where there is no provision made for cycling. I'm going to show you an image next. The next image I'm going to show you is my view at the point at which the bicycle lane ends on Varick Street. So this is Houston Street, immediately passing horizontally. And as a cyclist, when the lights change, I have the option of either merging to the right of the Bud Light truck here into the 1 to 3rd lane of the avenue, or merging to the left of the Bud Light truck and appearing to the left of the Bud Light truck as more traffic is merging left to possibly turn left. This is a fairly precarious maneuver to make when trying to continue your journey. You can see on the left, there's a USPS truck. There's parking on the left and the right of the avenue, and there are 4 lanes for traffic. I'm going to show you a second image, and this is the image of the double parking that occurs slightly further down the avenue. there can be double parking, and there can sometimes be triple parking as well. And that triple parking is a real issue. It pushes you further to the right on the avenue when making a southbound journey. And once you've passed the obstruction, that leaves you far over in the third lane when passing that obstruction. This kind of forced lane positioning is really not popular with motorists. I frequently encounter aggressive behavior and close passing when I have to get into that position on the avenue. I'm really raising this because it's just a scary location, and I fear that somebody is going to get hurt along here. You mentioned that Jarrett was not on the call. Jarrett messaged me to say he couldn't make it, but he gave me some written feedback. He said, I'm an interior designer and I use City Bike to get to multiple clients throughout the city because biking is often the fastest way to get to them. I travel on this route all the time, and it's an area where I usually feel super unsafe without a protected bike lane. At certain times of the day, traffic eases and cars suddenly start speeding, confusing Varick as a turnpike. Additionally, as Hudson Square grows in popularity, increased pedestrian traffic here is going to mean more pedestrian injuries and injuries from cars unless traffic calming measures like protected bike lanes are put in place. So in short, my proposal is there is an excellent bicycle lane on 7th Ave at the moment, which makes us feel safe. I propose that is extended on Varick Street southbound down to Canal. That is my proposal.
Okay. And James, you had spoken about one of these people you mentioned, I think that you sent me names of, were, you just quoted him, right?
Yes, I did. Yep. If anyone else is on the call and wishes to, in the chat and wishes to contribute, please go ahead.
What?
Jarrett.
Oh, Jared. Okay. And how about the other two? Are they going to speak? Oh, Charles O'Neill is here. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll hear Charles O'Neill then too.
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. So similar to James, I bicycle to work, and I've taken this exact path. And when I saw his plans, I said I'd be happy to come and speak. And I bike from uptown through this exact route down to the American Express building. And I've had just a similar experience of James, of feeling very unsafe, feeling like there's no place on the road for bicycles to go. And then also not only dodging the double parking, doors opening, things like that, but cars also trying to turn left. So very much in favor of this proposal.
Okay, thank you, Charles. And there was
Chris Sanders isn't present.
He's not here. Okay, fine. So we've got your input now. And then the next thing is for the committee to ask any questions if they'd like to. Anybody have any? Dan has a question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's so much of a question, but it's support. I've had same kind of issues, and you really have no other option but to go on the sidewalk sometimes, and there's actually some restaurants there. You know what the DOT's done with their plans for 6th Avenue, which was very complicated. It just doesn't seem that this extension is as complicated as that switching back and forth, because you're really just taking back that space and continuing the protected bike lane. I just want to say,
I think, Dan, we're going to discuss that in business session.
all right, sure. So I just want to say that I very much support it, and it's something that we as a community board always fight for. That's that.
Okay. And do I see any other hands raised? How about here?
That's what I'm saying. Someone finds that cycling is the fastest way to get around Manhattan, then I support it too. Just a comment.
Okay. Anyone else? Rocio.
Would they have parking along the street?
I guess it would
Next to
be
the
floating
bicycle?
parking. I have a couple of questions, James.
Parking does exist along that avenue at the moment. There's parking on the left-hand side and right-hand side in some spots, and just on the left-hand side as you get down below Spring Street, I think.
Can you say that again? Maybe go back to that photo. Oh no, the photographs show where it isn't.
Sure, I can share again.
So what I guess I wanted to know is, what is the bike lane composed of before it hits Houston and ends?
Okay.
Where
So
does it start? One thing. Where does the bike lane start? The 7th Avenue bike lane.
I don't know where it starts. I sometimes travel from 23rd Street, and it definitely exists from 23rd Street down. I often travel from Bleecker Street, and 7th is my route normally.
James, do you know?
So it's 59.
What?
So it's Central Park. Yeah, 59.
Oh, it starts Central Park? Yep, okay.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, are you having trouble hearing me?
Oh, too, is it the same configuration the whole way through?
I don't know if it is the same configuration the whole way through. I think it varies with the amount of
Well, I mean, so what do you have in mind for the particular extension? What configuration? Do you want floating parking? Do you want parking side? Oh, okay, you want curbside, right?
So the picture,
and it's on the east side, right?
It is on the east side, yes. The left-hand side as you are traveling downtown. Yeah.
Street. So now is that a moving lane that you're showing? Or
no, it's parking.
Parking.
It's parking.
Okay, so that's floating parking. Now we're getting the idea of what you want, you see.
In my opinion, this is the more preferred option for cycling, because the parked cars give you a barrier between yourself and the moving traffic.
We're familiar with that. Yes,
the purely painted on cycle lanes are they're more of a they're very optimistic.
Right, yeah, we're aware of that. But I guess what would this mean in terms of south of Houston? How much parking would that take away then? Would it be the same amount of parking regardless because it's floating parking? You know,
I wasn't.
This horrendous scene south of Houston. So
I'm sorry, Shirley. I'm having trouble hearing your full question.
In terms of parking, right now there's parking right on the east side of the curbside. Is that correct?
There's parking on both sides of the avenue.
Yeah, you said that. And are they both curbside?
They are both curbside, yes.
Okay, so now parking on both sides curbside. So it would remain on the west side to the curb, right? Parking would remain the same on the west side.
I wasn't quite sure how to propose.
I mean, what you're trying to visualize it, because if they're going to ask us something, we have to ask for something, you know? So I wondered.
I apologize. I wasn't quite sure how to present this. I live up on 21st and 9th Avenue, and I know that's been shown as a model for the kind of options that are available.
So very,
that's like this, but very.
Okay, so it's a curbside bike lane plus a little barrier, if you want to call it that, then floating parking, and then how many lanes?
That's my question.
How many lanes of traffic
Will be left?
What?
So at the moment, currently, there are 4 lanes of traffic
so this
heading southbound, and there is parking on the west side and the east side.
Okay,
So
there would be one less lane of traffic.
Not quite sure how these are fitted in, but I suspect, say for example, if you took away parking on both sides of the street, I think you could keep 4 lanes of traffic. If you took away parking on the west side of the street, inserted a bike lane, and then provided parking adjacent to the bike lane on the east side of the street, I think you could keep 4 lanes as well.
Okay.
I wasn't quite sure what kind of level of detail of street layout was required.
Right?
So.
Yeah, but that's a lot. Okay, we really don't have a preference right now. If they had 3 lanes of moving traffic, that would be okay too, I guess, right?
No, the traffic doesn't move.
Well, it might.
I can go back and provide some photos around 5 o'clock.
Christina, you want to ask a question? Go ahead.
I'm going to ask the question again.
Okay.
James, so my understanding is that you're going to have the bike lane on the east side of the street.
Correct.
Then you're going to have the barrier.
Correct.
Then you're going to have 1 row of parking on the left-hand side going south. Then you're going to have 4 lanes of traffic movement. And then you're going to have another parking lane on the right side. How many lanes are there altogether?
Do that, but
Doesn't seem
you'd have to.
that is right. Explain.
So, apologies if I've not explained myself correctly here. If I explain the current layout of the avenue, which is 4 lanes of traffic, and then there is parking on both the east and the west sides.
I
of
have
the
6.
avenue right now. So I was, somebody asked in the chat, could I identify my credentials or profession? I'm a technology guy. I just cycle. I'm not into road design. I'm not an expert in road design. I was hoping that we could insert a bicycle lane on the east side of the street, put some parking adjacent to that, and then that would obviously take up some lanes in the avenue. If we needed to remove parking on the west side to make up for that, that would be an option too. I wasn't sure how the committee,
Okay.
or how
All
DOT
right, so-
designed this kind of stuff.
Okay, that I really wanted to know what you had in mind. So what you really have in mind right now is you'd like to see floating parking with a curbside bike lane and a little barrier in between.
Sure.
The way DOT decides to do it, it's okay with you, whether.
That's right. Again, I just wanted to reiterate, I'm raising this as like a safety issue, really. So that kind of protected space with cars parked adjacent to the bicycle lane really provides safety. After that, sure, we can figure out what the what other parts of the avenue are taking.
Okay, I understand now. Now somebody is raising their hand. Right?
Okay.
Okay.
And it's just that you got to remember that this is a major feedway into the Holland Tunnel.
Yep.
So you have 2 dedicated lanes going into the Holland Tunnel, and then DOT actually puts up bollards sometimes in between. But that doesn't mean that you couldn't have one thorough street for cars and then also having the parking in the protected lane. Right now, there's 2. And what often happens is the double parking that you're talking about. But I don't think you can we could write a resolution without acknowledging that it is the main way into getting into the Holland Tunnel from the New York side. And there's Broome Street right there, which is as everyone who lives on Broome Street knows, there's a tremendous amount of residents that complain about the noise. So that all needs to be taken into consideration.
Yep.
Okay, I just want to see if I have. Yeah.
Just your point on
That's a
the
pretty wide
entrance.
street then, right? Do you have any idea what the width of that street is?
I don't have the width in feet, but 4 car lanes plus 2 parking lanes at the moment.
Right. Okay.
Just your point there about the capacity, Dan. I think I was walking home on Monday or Friday and just observed the volume of traffic going into the Holland Tunnel, and the lanes on the east side of the street were actually empty. Because the traffic is the pinch point really is the entrance to the tunnel there. So most of the lanes on the west side of the avenue were just parked cars at that point, queuing to get in. So there's no capacity challenge getting into the Holland Tunnel. There's enough lanes there to support the cars going in. The Holland Tunnel is the pinch point.
If you keep that amount of lanes, okay. There was something else I wanted to ask. Now let me just take a look at my question. Oh yeah, so you don't really have a sense of what the shape of the bike lane is right now before you reach Houston Street. Is it the same configuration above Houston Street?
Oh, I can share a picture.
Okay.
So that's the type of configuration above Houston Street.
So that is the configuration right now. So like,
Correct.
okay, now we're getting someplace. So what you're saying is you would like a continuation of that
Yep.
same configuration, right?
Yep, I'll take anything honestly, but this is the ideal configuration.
Right, and it is that same configuration above Houston Street.
This is the format above Houston Street. Yeah.
Okay, that's really what I wanted to know. Okay.
And how many lanes are, before you do anything, how many lanes are on 7th Avenue South? Before you do anything of your bike lanes and parking, and seems to me that the bike lane and the space for safety space is about a lane in itself, and then another lane for parking, and then you say 3 lanes or 4 lanes for traffic movement, and then another lane for parking on the other side? How many lanes are there altogether?
Yeah, you mean above Houston, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so, okay, we see this configuration. What is the whole configuration above Houston? You got
I don't have that to hand.
curbside, little area, then you have the floating parking, and then out to the west, what do you have? How many moving lanes?
3.
Okay, oh, 3, okay, so it's less. Okay.
Yes,
Configuration.
And then parking on the other side.
3 lanes, and then parking on the west side, right?
that's correct. It does change block to block. I'm just looking at a Google Map overhead view, but by and large, the bikeway is continuous on the east side, and ultimately you have 3 lanes of through traffic, and you have also turn lanes created as well, and that all fits. Those turn lanes are additional
You have
lanes.
what?
Turn lanes.
Turn lanes.
Golly, that's a lot.
So,
You have a turn lane at Christopher. I'm looking at, so that makes it 4 at that point because they've removed parking at that.
But not always, right?
No, not always. In many
Above
cases,
house,
it's 3
but-
moving traffic lanes with a parking lane and a protected bike lane. And then on
Okay,
the west side, also additional parking.
okay.
so if
Oh,
you,
got Janine now. Here we are.
so if you remove,
Varick is 100
No, when
feet
it's
wide.
contagious.
What?
if you remove 3
Varick is 100 feet wide.
lanes.
That's a lot.
And so,
Just one.
Curb to curb.
yeah, and
Excuse
Varick,
me, I have a question. If you remove 3 lanes, which is 1 for the bike lane and the safety area, another for the parking, that's 2, another one on the other side, and you only have 3 lanes for traffic, what is the impact on the traffic flow for all this reduced lanes? How is that going to impact the traffic going through the Holland Tunnel?
I'm not sure. I'm honestly not
Well,
sure how.
we
I'm
would
honestly
have
not sure how to measure that.
I mean, I
But
don't
my,
think.
my ad hoc observation is there's plenty of capacity to get into the Holland Tunnel. There's by reducing the number of lanes that lead into the Holland Tunnel, I doubt you would really reduce the amount of traffic going through it. So that is my ad hoc observation. I'm not sure how to measure it otherwise.
Okay,
Well, Kate has her hand.
Yeah, if I may just
okay,
interject.
Sheriff from DOT.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Thanks, James, for your presentation and suggestion. I'll just interject and say, like, at this time, DOT does not have a proposal for extending the bike lane south of Houston, but depending on what the community board writes in the resolution, we'll certainly take it back and can consider it for the future. I'll just say right now, I don't know how productive it would be to get into the weeds of, what lanes are going to be removed and what the traffic pattern would look like, just because those are all things that have to be designed by DOT. We have planners and engineers that do that. So it's, putting the cart before the horse a little bit on this one, but I understand you're trying to understand what's being suggested, but I just ask that you keep that in mind as well.
Okay, Kate, thank you for that. So in other words, whatever we ask for, DOT will go out and study it and figure out what fits there or not, is what you're saying.
Yes.
That we don't have to really
And-
get these
yeah.
details. You guys will get it yourself. Okay, great.
I'll also just plug, I'll also just
Yeah,
plug
there is-
that we're finishing up the 6th Avenue bike lane, which will provide service between 14th Street and Lispenard Street. So hopefully, in the meantime, once that is finished, that will provide a strong north-south connection.
Thank you for the 6th Avenue work, Kate. It's very, very popular with my workmates.
Right, I'm sure with anybody that
And
uses.
it makes me feel safer as well. I've had some horrible close passing cycling up the west side of 6th Avenue too, and using the bike lane now is much safer.
Kate, I just have to tell you something interesting. We actually asked for the same bike lane that's being requested tonight in 2019 in the resolution, but DOT never got back to us on it. So maybe you guys will this time. Just think who,
There's a hand raised in the chat from Darlene Lutz.
okay, anybody, Roy?
Let her go first.
Okay.
Darlene.
Oh, Darlene, okay. Okay, Darlene, you're on.
Good evening, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. Good evening, everybody. My name is Darlene Lutz. I believe most know where I live, at 80 Varick Street. That's 1 block north of Canal, between Watts and Grand. 80 Varick is the only residential building with egress from Varick Street on the stretch between Houston and Canal Street. It is on the east side. It is home to over 120 people. We know our traffic. We know our Holland Tunnel traffic very well. Hi, Kate, sure. Always nice to have the DOT paying attention to the Holland Tunnel traffic and our needs down here. I do not support a bike lane, a protected bike lane in this area for several reasons, but mostly because my safety, the resident safety of exiting any vehicle and having to cross a bike lane to get into your home, unloading your car with anything, or an Uber or a taxi, and having to cross a bike lane is just not acceptable. To go to your home, it's dangerous. So I understand that everybody wants to feel safe on their bikes on the road. And, you know, bike lanes are, you know, they're a work in progress here. We're seeing how it works out. We have a lot of issues to work out before we go further, but this is one of the highest density trafficked areas in the city. And this can't be taken lightly at all. 6th Avenue bike lane that just was laid down has massive problems at the crossings at Watt Street, Canal Street, and Houston. You know, those might be worked out. We'll see, because traffic is, you know, is at a pulse point where it's not, it's just not even back from the pandemic, believe it or not. But I would know, because I can tell you the density of traffic just by the din of it, because of where I live and where I've lived for 45 years. Again, I'm requesting that my community board, this is CB2 is my community board, that they don't support this at this time. There are other things to work out. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. Anyone else that would like to speak?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo the concern that Darlene was talking about. I don't drive a car. I used to though, but sometimes I still rent a car. And I have seen the traffic back up at the Holland Tunnel. It's dangerous. There are people who get so fed up of being in that traffic that they go on the sidewalk with their cars, skip the traffic. And that's a dangerous situation. So thinking about reducing bike lanes, traffic lanes, that's something to really consider, because it will create some type of bottleneck situation there. I was also thinking, if there is already a bike lane on 6th Avenue going south, L'Esplanade, why
6th Avenue going north. 6th Avenue goes north. 6th Avenue going north.
It goes north.
Well, I mean, oh, it is going north. It's not going south.
No, okay, no.
Totally.
There's actually 3 bicycle lanes that head north around this area, and this area I'm proposing is where there's an absence of southbound lanes.
Okay.
Oh, and another question,
No
I might have
question.
just like not paid attention or maybe missed it, but who is James with?
Where's he?
Just a resident. Just a resident?
Yeah, who's the guy that's presenting?
Yeah.
He's a presenter.
Just wanna know that.
Yeah.
Hi there, I'm James Morris.
Hey.
I'm a happy resident of New York City. I live on 21st and 9th in Chelsea, and I think I probably work in the building adjacent to where Darlene lives.
He works in Soho, so he's
Yep.
situate. Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I have a few things
What does
just
the
to
Department of
read.
Transportation have? to say?
Okay, what?
Department of Transportation,
What about,
what are they saying about it? Is there
well, she
something-
said,
Yeah,
what she said.
just,
She said that they would evaluate.
Yeah.
The Hudson Square bid had just sent a little something. And he said they just would want to make sure that there's a visiting process for the community and that the bid would weigh in and adjacent stakeholders on the design, given the particular traffic conditions of the corridor. And loading needs should be taken into consideration on some of the commercial heavy blocks. And if there are opportunities to enhance the design with amenities that could further beautify the traffic on Varick Street. And Janet, our fellow committee member, who couldn't be here tonight, did send in some comments. And she said that actually a visioning workshop would not do the trick because DOT starts with painted colors, which Kate was basically saying is that they would really look it over and test it. And she said that DOT has a toolkit on how to create standard protected bike lanes. I don't support a visioning workshop for a protected bike lane. Simply say that DOT should study the loading along the corridor, consult with local bids, and ensure that they create adequate space to curb demands, and would encourage them to create tree and flower, the same as Jacob now. And that's about it. So, James, you can stick around. We'll be discussing this further in business session. And now I think we're going to move on to the next thing. Is Chenault here?
Great, thanks, folks.
Okay, so actually the next person is Chenault Spence, and he is a member of Community Board 2. And the topic is review of traffic safety problems at Christopher Street and Waverly Place and at Christopher Street and 7th Avenue South, addressing the urgent need to implement traffic safety measures at those locations. So those are 2 particular locations on Christopher Street where there are glaring problems. There are a lot of other problems on Christopher Street too, but Chenault was pointing out something that he's been observing for a long time, which has gotten worse than ever, right, Chenault? So tell us.
I happen to be the world's authority on this because 2 subway stations involved, the West 4th Street and Sheridan Square. And they're my 2 stations, and I deal with this configuration of streets going to either one. Going toward the west, if one is coming from Greenwich Avenue west, the intersection is 2 directions of Waverly Place, one from the north, one from the south, and Christopher Street is coming then in from the east. So there are those 3 streets that are the immediate intersection. The distance of the northern dispensary, there has to be a choice made to go straight on Christopher Street or left on I don't know what the name of that is in that block. It must be Grove Street.
Grove.
Even there. And so that choice has to be made when one is on the east side of the intersection. The going straight across on Christopher Street, one has only the opportunity to make a turn as far as Bleecker Street or farther west. Taking the left side takes one into 7th Avenue South, presumably to the tunnel and whatever's down that way. It's also the only way to get across and around and back toward east on other streets, West 4th Street. The whole thing is laid out brilliantly, given the quirkiness of village streets. The difficulty is the signage. There is no stop sign at the intersection coming in to Grove Street a little bit farther along, as well as Waverly Place, which has to be crossed. And there is clear need for pedestrian crossing there. Lately, at this unmarked crossing, a zebra was put in, and so that even more encourages people to think that they have the right to cross or they're invited to cross. That's since all been dug up for street work, so it's not there. The request is very simple, to put a stop sign on the corner so that the coming from the east traffic, which is come across 9th Street presumably, would stop there, and it would give an opportunity for crossing. It would also give an equal opportunity to the drivers to really make the decision whether to go south on 7th Avenue by way of Grove Street or to go straight ahead for more westerly places. Then the other signage would be to mark the street very clearly with the white arrows and showing which goes which way. And then, excuse me, all of this simply to help the people across the street who need to cross and to make the traffic more orderly, because there's not a decision being made in the middle of the intersection about which way to go. Then the traffic that proceeds along Christopher Street to 7th Avenue is where the other part of the problem lies. Frequently, people are trying to turn into 7th Avenue. One can reasonably assume, because it wasn't clear that to get into 7th Avenue, they had to have made their decision a full block before. And that would be a matter of marking the street and having the signs more clearly. Particularly, the sign is on the right side of the street, and the left side of the street is where one is making a left-hand turn, obviously. So to have a sign there, as well as the markings of the street, would be useful.
That it?
That's it.
Okay, everybody have questions? Okay, I have a question, Chanel.
Okay.
I understand about the Waverly crossing, but I'm wondering, where do you have in mind exactly to put the arrows? It's going to be on the street then, of course, right? The arrow-
In the again, this is probably the technical things of exactly how it, where and how soon is something for the DOT engineers. But what would be
Right.
seem to be reasonable is an arrow on the west side of the intersection of Christopher Street and Waverly Place, showing those two clearly. And then at 7th Avenue, the left lane would show straight only, and the right lane would show straight plus an angle into West 4th Street. Only in the village could all this happen.
So the one at Waverly, that would be pointing straight on Christopher?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. So
it's a little bit redundant because of where the streets are, but
right,
like anything would help this puzzling thing of needing to go south a block before you know you need to go south.
like, I get it. But you can't turn at that corner, right? Or can you? Can you turn south at Christopher and Seventh?
That's what you can't do and what is
Can't?
frequently done.
So that's why the arrow pointing
Yeah.
straight ahead.
The arrows there are the critical arrows, as well as a no turning sign on the left-hand side of the street, because that's the direction that the bad turning is happening.
No turning sign. They don't have a no turning sign now. On the south side of the street, right?
Yes, the south side near corner at Christopher and
Right.
Fifth Avenue.
Okay. So I'm just trying to get it clear. Waverly and Christopher on the east side of the street, the arrow should be. Is that correct?
Yes, and I would further say that might merit the word stop written on the street, because this is going to be something new for the drivers who are accustomed to it. So the unfamiliar drivers will see to stop, and the familiar drivers will see all at once that they have to stop.
Okay, so the other
DOT
question.
has some way of dealing with radical changes.
Okay, and I see that on that. So, and then when you get to Christopher and Seventh, signage on the south side, that makes sense. And what about the arrows? Does that point
The left-hand lane,
straight,
the
right?
straight arrow, you can only continue on Christopher Street from the left-hand lane. The right lane, there is both straight and a properly degree angle to go into West 4th Street.
Okay, I just have one question. So what about those that are turning to Grove?
You can't turn to Grove except
From Waverly you can, right?
Grove is out of the picture when you get to 7th Avenue.
No, I'm talking about at Waverly. Because you said.
At Waverly Pl.
You said you want the arrow straight ahead on Christopher. And for those going on Grove.
Oh, here we have a map.
Misleading, I guess is what I'm thinking. Am I thinking clearly? I'm not sure.
Okay, could the cursor go to the intersection of Waverly Place and Christopher Street?
Right.
Okay, that's where the first sign goes. Then you can see the two.
First arrow you're talking about, right? There's a stop sign before the crosswalk. On
to
the
right of that arrow, to the right of the cursor is the stop sign. There.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's the east.
And drawing it in the street as well.
Now, but you also said on the east side that there should be an arrow pointing straight down Christopher. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, and also one on Grove Street. I'm not sure that's an engineering question of whether the psychology of it.
Oh, okay. So consider arrows at that. Consider arrows. The major point is at 7th Avenue. You want those arrows going straight and to stop the left turns, correct?
There, and where the hand is now is the left hand, is the
right. Okay, get it. Okay.
And then where the arrow is now is straight ahead on Christopher Street, and a little bit north of there, same intersection, a little bit. No, I'm trying to move it. No, on back on Christopher Street to the east. Yeah, and I move up there. There we go. There. That's the place where that lane is the arrow that one continues straight across Christopher Street or 4th Street, which is not marked. going off
Okay,
the northwest in terms of.
okay. So the major place for the arrow is Christopher Street and Seventh, right?
Yes.
Plus signage. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Guests have any questions? Okay. Stella has a question. Stella?
Hi. Yeah, so I'm looking at Google Maps at the street view right now, and I see that there is a no left turn sign. It says accept bikes at Christopher and 7th Avenue South. Maybe it can be made larger because there
Which side of the street is it on?
it's on the left side of the street. So
Oh,
it
there
is,
is one there. Okay.
but it does.
It used to be. I don't walk in that direction, so I hadn't known that. I'm on the other side.
Oh,
suffering
let's
as
be
well.
the south side, right?
It's on the south side, but it's attached to the I don't know the technical words. It's attached to the post with the turning signals, or not the turning the regular if you I see. No, if you go down to 7th.
Yeah, yeah.
It's over there.
Down further.
Traffic lights, yeah.
Wait a minute, but he's gonna come down Christopher Street.
This is
Right
Christmas.
there.
And
Okay,
you
so
turn. Is there a sign there?
Yeah, it's that.
Where?
The north side.
there's that one. Yeah, but then there's also
Oh,
one
it's-
the south side. If
Left
you
turn accept bikes.
Oh, but it's way up there, so maybe there should be one over here.
Like,
Yeah, right.
back up just a little,
Okay.
zoom out just a little bit.
Got it up there now.
You see, there's another sign that says, no, yep, that one. So maybe that one needs to be bigger.
Oh,
maybe
you're
it could
right.
be like,
It's
like
elevated.
bigger.
yeah.
Closer to the-
It's that's certainly not in a driver's view, particularly if the driver is panicked because of not having taken Grove Street to begin with.
Yeah.
So in other words, that maybe that's not as visible as maybe if it were more at street level?
Exactly.
Or bigger, or something. Okay,
Is to make it clear that one cannot turn left on 7th Avenue South, even if one wants to.
okay. All right, now, it's understandable what you're saying. It's a matter of what is the solution, right? Okay, okay, so I think that's it. I think we'll go into business session then, right, Kang? Do we have anybody else wanting to say anything, ask anything, comment, question? No? Okay. Then we are going into business session. And I guess as far as the study, I don't really see any reason to have a resolution. I mean, does anybody else?
No.
No, but just a report.
Yeah, but I think we should recommend who's on this partnership group. I mean, the putting all the bids on it is the community boards, and the bids don't represent the residents. Hudson Square bid isn't gonna be worried about kids walking to and from Pier 40,
Okay.
or all the public schools, or whatever the case may be. But I don't know we should find out the full list of who they've already reached out to. Because, no point recommending somebody that's already on the list.
Well, he was saying everybody.
Yeah, but it's not.
I mean, the question is at what point should we be recommending that? That's why I was asking him about, when do we start participating?
Well, I think the first thing is to follow up with him and ask him who so far is on.
Okay, how do we do that? We're not gonna do a resolution on that.
No. And then
So that we should probably just write a short note thanking him for appearing and then send some questions.
Well, the main question is who's participating in the.
My name's Ben. I'm from Senator Roman Siegel's office. And
Oh, hi.
Previously, they've reached elected officials, they said community boards, electeds, basically everyone, all like institutional groups would be represented on this.
I know, but I don't know what other institutional groups, because the bids do not represent the residents, and I don't want them to have an outsized voice relative to all the people that live along Hudson River Park and use the Greenway.
Look, I would write him a thank you note for coming anyhow. In the note, I could say, could you give us a little more clarification of exactly who you would have in mind? How many representatives from each group, that kind of thing.
I would
He already said what he wanted. He said bids.
I know what he
said
wanted, but then I
levels.
asked him and he said, give us more names. But I would ask him for the specific list.
For what?
The specific list of who's already part of the partnership, so we can make recommendations if.
You mean who's already part of the partnership in another community board?
No, like which group, like which groups are they inviting?
Okay, which groups?
And is there room for us to make recommendations? We want to know the specifics.
He said there was room
So,
when I asked
yeah.
him, so it's really just, he's already
Okay.
invited to the dance.
Right.
So we can see if there's other people that need to get invited to the dance.
Okay, yeah.
I think you should just press them on finishing that website so we get that information online.
What's that?
They still haven't made a website or email address specific to this particular project yet.
Right, and they're supposed to notify
Yeah,
us.
he gets that done as soon as
So we
possible.
could ask him for the.
Yeah, and he could put up all those different groups that they've reached out to.
Address for the website.
Well, plus adding all the different groups they've reached out to on that website.
Which should have that information, right? Okay. Yeah, anything else?
I was just gonna say that, Jenny, I'm happy to follow up with that. I already have like some type of communication. For a while, we've been asking about progress and stuff, so. Instead of I'm happy with that. We also want to know, they said, official organization.
But you all can write from your offices.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to.
So if you would copy us, and I'll copy you on our letter.
Absolutely.
Okay, so for that one, I'll do a draft, send it around, you'll edit me, I'll send it to Ian. And that'll be that. Okay, great. So it'll be a letter. Okay, that's number one. Okay, now how about number two? I don't know if you had a chance to look at the original resolution, but I guess.
I'm just gonna, I heard some of the concerns about other people. I think we should reiterate our previous resolution. And I just want to point out.
Well, that was 5 years ago, though.
I know,
I mean,
just in talks about southbound, it's really hard to bike safely south. If you want to go, Lafayette goes south, but not until Spring Street. There's a bike lane on Broadway and it disappears at Houston, and you're fighting with tourists, delivery trucks, everything. And there's really only one lane of traffic, very little room because there's also a bus lane, but there's no bike lane. And then 7th Avenue is a death ride. So frankly, there's really no good way to go south if you live north of Spring Street. And frankly, Lafayette's is technically considered on the east side.
So you feel it's really a necessity?
Yeah, we have Hudson Street going north. We have 6th Avenue going north.
Okay. Yeah.
6th Avenue ends
So
at.
this is really, there is no bike lane in that area or any area? Are there other southbound bike lanes?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's, after Lafayette, you're into the East Village. So, I mean, in terms of community ward 2, no.
Okay, so then.
Dan, am I missing anything?
Doesn't have.
Yeah, you're missing Washington Street going south.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, and that goes to Houston also. No, actually it goes below Houston.
But then it changes.
Right back to Canal.
So it doesn't have southbound access below Houston?
No, it does. It goes,
Right?
it does. It goes to Canal. Washington.
Does? Okay, then we can say that. But we can say a lot of things. Let me read you what we originally had in the,
But I will say you
resolution.
can't go south on Washington because it change direction south of Canal Street.
Oh, yeah, you can't go beyond.
Yeah, so it's not really a
You got a copy?
smooth way to get anywhere.
Oh, thank you.
Oh,
The hard way.
Okay, so let me just see where I have it. Oh, this is the wrong one. This is Christopher. Too many pieces of paper, right? I'll just read you what we had originally. I don't know if it fits anymore or not.
well, you could say about Varick and 7th Avenue. Where I'm just looking at the Washington Street bike lane on Google Maps.
Yeah.
It's not a protected
Bike
lane, so I'm
protected bike.
yeah. So like even on Google Maps, I can see there are trucks that are parked in the bike lane on Washington.
Protected bike lane in CB2, south to Canal Street, right?
Well, no, I mean Washington Street is unprotected.
Yeah, but do you live there? Because
Right now, we're
Washington
at
Street doesn't
the
have a lot
Canal
of traffic.
Street,
It's not a
though.
wide street. So it's very different from Varick, which is a very busy, dangerous street. So usually Washington Street south of Canal is pretty much deserted. You get to Spring.
Can we simply say that there is no protected bike lane going south from Houston to Canal Street?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
CB2, can we say that?
As far as I know, that's true.
Yes, you can.
But in CB2, that's pretty important, south to Canal Street. I won't even say from Houston to Canal Street. Okay, let me read you what we had originally. Okay, here's your whereas. Numerous requests for several years to extend to Canal Street. The bike lane located on the east side of Varick doesn't interfere with Holland Tunnel traffic, which heads south on the west side of the street. That now will have a third this was then, there was something else going on. It has that now, the moving traffic. And that's it. And then they asked for the bike lane to be extended behind Houston to Canal Street. So are we agreed that we should ask for the bike lane? Oh, Carter, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I had a comment. First of all, I wholeheartedly, I think that the request maybe should be to investigate more southbound bike lanes and leave it a little broader, because going south of Canal, continuing south on Varick, you hit the cobblestones and the whole, what is it, the helix or whatever they call that from the outbound Holland Tunnel. So it's a very complex area, and I think that the issue is being on a bike and going south. That's the bigger issue, and I think it's better to put a bigger question to DOT than just Varick Street, because there are a lot of competing interests there, and I'm not sure that can be solved in the shorter term. But investigating more ways to go south is very important, I think. And
so maybe we could say this is a possibility, and to please investigate other alternatives for going south.
Yeah, just we need more, and including just to Janine's point, one of the things is, there could be some connector two-way bike lanes to get to cross over, for example, on Lafayette, even though that's further east, but some other areas, a two-way bike lane might help bridge some issues, and it seems that DOT is more willing to investigate those options. But some of them might actually be outside of CB2 if you're trying to connect the larger bike.
Dan, are you still there? I wanted to ask Dan. Are you there, Dan?
I'm still here, yes.
Dan, I wanted to ask you about this whole Holland Tunnel thing, and the idea, obviously, if they would do this lane, they'd have to take away a lane. And you seem to have some doubts about the need that extra lane was really needed for the Holland Tunnel.
No, yeah, I mean, it's gonna come down to businesses wanting to double park there and unloading on the east side. But the point is that you really don't have a backup of traffic as a thoroughfare down 7th. You have what was described as this 2 lanes that going into the Holland Tunnel. I think that DOT has to answer this with their engineers and saying, why can't there be an extended, exactly what you did north of Houston? Why can't you continue it south? I think that, and many people will agree that if you, Janet being one of them, that adding extra lanes doesn't mean traffic goes faster. If you had a single lane that's through traffic, it actually could move traffic better than 2 lanes where people are cutting each other off. So, and the other thing that's we talked about, I think, in this resolution before was we really need to separate, do a better job separating the folks going in the Holland Tunnel than the folks in the neighborhood who want to get through from the village to Tribeca. So, because there are a lot of cheaters, people cheat, right? They cut in and they're cutting in on Spring, they're cutting in, they're going on Broome to get in, and they're doing it on Dominic there. So, right now it's temporary, just people ride over the bollards. So maybe if there's something more permanent where there's separation, there's also, by the way, the left side in that 3rd lane, which we're talking about right now, you can go through, you have a choice to either go into the tunnel or you can go straight as a car. So there actually is 2 throughways to go. It wouldn't just be one. What we would be sacrificing is a easterly lane to make way for a protected bike lane. You would remove the parking. But I think the 3 lanes works north. If you look at a Google map and you look to see what's going on north of it, it's a continuation of exactly that street design.
Okay.
But, I was gonna say, so I had mentioned Varick is 100 feet wide as it is, and 7th Avenue South is 80 feet wide, so so Varick widens by 20 feet compared to.
Oh, that's an interesting thought to put in. Okay. Would we say, do people agree that we should ask for?
Yes.
Okay, so I guess what I would do is I put in this stuff about it being wider down there, which is kind of helpful. And some of the things that Dan just said about possibly it might organize the Holland Tunnel traffic separately, actually, from the other moving traffic and bike traffic in a way that might make it a lot more efficient. And that there is no other protected bike lane south. So, I mean, I'll start with that. What did we miss now?
I mean, the only thing we're missing is that cyclists, yes, it's funny, in 2019, I was scoping this out and I could not go south on Varick. And so what I had to do is I had to go on the sidewalk for a bit, and there's scaffolding, there was a restaurant. I ran into Darlene and she yelled at me because I was actually trying to figure out what to do. And I had no choice. And I was actually saying, hey, I'm actually here trying to figure out how I can ride down. And that's why there's yeah, rightfully, I shouldn't have been on the sidewalk. I had no choice. It's like, am I going to die or am I going to like walk my bike home? So I think that for pedestrian safety is an issue that if you don't want cyclists on that, it's a very wide sidewalk there. If you don't want cyclists on the sidewalks, we have to give them a way to travel.
True.
There's
Okay.
somebody behind you with their hand raised.
Would everybody agree? Okay, so we're going to ask for
There's no public
the Varick Street bike lane, and we're also, no, we're in business session.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I thought I made it clear. If I didn't, I apologize. Okay. I just gave the reasons. We will ask for that. We will also ask for them to study for alternatives because we need other routes also by bike downtown, as Carter said. So we can ask for both of those. And I think that was about it. You know, the width of the street is actually wider in the southern part where it would be requested. There is no route that goes this way right now, south of bicyclists. This may actually present a way to organize the street for those that use the Holland Tunnel, as opposed to those who are driving straight down or bicycling. So those are the major things, and I don't know, maybe a few others as well. So how do you feel about that, gang? Committee? Do we get a, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, unanimous. All right. And the third one, I think is kind of simple, right? I mean, for one thing, we have been asking for a stop sign forever there. And now that they've got the zebra crosswalk, it's like an invitation to cross without any kind of traffic control to stop the vehicles. So it's a logical thing. We could ask for a stop sign or other traffic control. Maybe we could ask for a light. I guess that's overkill. What do you think?
I think it's overkill because you.
Yeah, so ask for stop sign.
I would just ask for a stop sign, and I would have put, it's gonna be very confusing to everyone on the board, and it's confusing to us, and we live here, we had a map. I think we should include a map with a little stop sign on it. And I'm not, I can do the map for you, I'm not still not exactly.
Can you do that? Send it to me, I'll integrate it.
Yeah, okay. But where?
Or to Mark, and you can put it on the website, actually. Makes more sense. And I guess that's really, and arrows, what the heck, it's 7th Avenue. Arrows straight ahead to Christopher, right? That straight ahead to Christopher.
Where is the stop sign? What's the exact intersection? So.
Oh, you didn't see that picture?
I did see the picture, but there was.
Oh, no, the no left turn sign.
Oh, you want a stop sign and a no left. I know where the no left turn.
Oh, wait a minute, the stop sign would be, you got the picture, right? I sent you the photograph. It would be on the east side of the crosswalk, east side of Waverly and the east side of the crosswalk. I'm not sure which side. What, right, left? I don't know. What do you think is more visible?
Here.
You know, it's a strange street. There's a bus going down that street too. And of course, that's where the new stone wall facility is.
I think we should have a
Visitor
four-way
center.
stop. Go back to the map.
Don't worry about the no left turn. It's specified. I think these are fairly simple.
I know, but are we asking for one stop sign or 4 stop signs?
Well, he asked for one.
Okay, but.
You could ask for it on both sides of the street.
So Christopher gets to go through and the Waverly folks have to stop.
I mean, we could ask for 4.
But you don't need it
How
the
does-
other way.
I don't know if you need it, yeah.
One-way street. Okay, so just up that side, on the north side.
On the northeast side, right?
But it's on, the stop is for Waverly to stop, not for Christopher.
Northeast side, yeah, of Waverly, of intersection of Waverly and Christopher, okay. Actually, these are fairly simple things this time. Is that it? Oh, wait a minute now. Is that
That's a
current?
to enter, so back up.
No, it should be, wait a minute, I have the photo with me.
Instruction of the.
So Chanel sent it to us. Let me see. Where the heck is?
Oh, why don't we ask, is he still here?
If you want to change, you can always do it at the full board, but here, you want a picture of it?
I have it.
I've been asked to speak.
Here.
Everybody want the stop sign.
Everybody.
I would again, it's something that may better be discussed by the
Oh, it goes across
designer.
Christopher.
It would seem reasonable on the left side of the street because that's the side where the angle goes off for Grove Street.
So
If-
that would be the
I don't know why there
southeast.
couldn't be two. Again, I was very concerned about the
You're
fact
saying
that
the
people
stop
are
sign on
accustomed to there
Christopher.
not being one there. And it needs to be, if anything, oversigned, at least in the
So
near
you're
term.
saying the southeast side then? If it's the left side of Christopher going west, then it's the south side, right? Southeast side. So now where it's pointing, that's the northeast side, right?
Well, that's.
Why not both?
You can only have one stop sign at an intersection, right? Or
Okay, it just seems more reasonable on the south side.
Where do you want it? Where is best? To me, it would probably be on the right side, on the north side.
But bottom line, the stop sign is on Christopher, not on Waverly.
Oh, yeah.
That's the question I was asking. I can
Oh,
easily
right.
put a stop sign on
So,
the map. I just don't-
Jamal, do you there? Do you suggest it on Christopher? Yeah, it would be on Christopher, of course, because it's traffic coming down Christopher, heading west. Yeah.
Sounds good. Okay, I'll take.
So that would be the northeast side, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And it would be on Christopher. Oh, sure. You want the traffic to stop before that corner on Christopher, the corner of Waverly. So it would be before the crosswalk. Okay. I think we're making things more complicated than they are. I guess that's it, right?
All righty.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. You know what? We're one short of a quorum. It's ridiculous.
Oh, man, well. Only a few days left till election